Hi, this is Jack Downs. Sorry I can't be in class today. I'm in jury duty instead. However, this is an important lesson, so I do hope you stick to the end of it. You're going to learn some things you really have to know about the next stage of the resume. So a lot to do, so let's get started. And as usual, we're going to start with the schedule. Today is Monday, March 28th, and the topic is Resume 5. The last stage before then we move to Resume Final. Important stage. To warn you, there's a quiz in 1 week from today on color, all the color stuff, which includes links. That's a really big category of stuff. There was a big presentation on that. You'll want to review that. More about that later. Do this class. Colors 2 and 3 should have been picked up already by the TA today. If you didn't get them in, drop them off at my office door very soon. It's important feedback you'll need for the resume stage. Do next class? No, the Resume 5 is not due next class. You'll have nearly 2 weeks to do it. More about that in a minute. But there's a lot to do. I do suggest you reread Chapter 13, which was already assigned. That was the color chapter, on background images, especially page 284 to the end. Next class will be an exercise on background images, how we use background images. And to do that, to do the exercise, you're going to need to have that color 1 again. So make sure to bring color 1 on your drive to next class. And hopefully I'm not on jury duty. Otherwise we'll have another video lesson, but we'll see. Okay, on with the lesson. I suggest that you get out your copy of the assignment for Resume 5. I have one right here. This is the assignment you should have picked up already. If for some reason you don't have it, you can get a copy on Moodle in this PDF form like I have here. So I'm going to go over this, and there's a lot of other detail to mention as we do. First of all, what's going to happen is we're continuing to move towards a full-fledged website with your resume, a lot more than a resume it is now. And this resume stage is due in a zip folder with lots of files now on Moodle on Friday, April 8th. That's a week from Friday. So what I suggest is you go get your Resume 4. But first of all, you should probably make any updates and changes. So for some of you, that's very few. For some of you, that's a lot. If you are still having trouble with the HTML, let's say you're having trouble using lists properly. That was a somewhat common thing. You should have learned it by now, though. There's plenty in the textbook, and we've gone over it. Let's say I've been noting that your ULs are not properly used, or you're getting them mixed up with your DLs, or you don't know that DLs have to have a DT and a DD and what those things mean and how they work. That probably also means you have to add content too. Well, get that straightened out. If you have any uncertainty, ask for help now. Get help from our TA or from me, because you got to get that straightened out. So make all the changes and corrections, get your files up to date, make sure you're ready to go. When you're going to get done with this, you're going to have at least 5 files in your root folder and probably more, because you're going to be splitting your resume into at least 2 parts and probably more. And you're still going to have your cover letter. And you're going to have to make sure all that CSS is right and the links to the style sheet are working. And that's the only place the CSS is supposed to be now, remember? In the style sheet. Some of you are still leaving CSS in the documents. No, no, no. Get rid of it. Okay, here we go. We're going to assume you've made the changes and your links are up to date and so on. So what is this splitting the resume thing? Well, at this stage, you have a very long file. It's a lot more than a normal resume, right? And I've asked you to write out more and more detail, more detail. Well, this is where your resume project is going to start to diverge more and more from the other students around you. Because you have to decide, for you, what's the best way to split up this content? A common split might be to take education stuff, all the education-related things, and employment-related things, and put them on 2 different pages. This could be a natural split. College activities probably goes with the stuff about SUNY Plattsburgh, and then employment might include community service and hobbies there too, like the volunteerism stuff and awards. Maybe the awards go over with the education part. So for each of you, it's going to be different. What feels like a natural split? On the other hand, maybe you want to make it experience and about. Think about those categories. So experience would be what? Education and employment. Maybe those would be together. But all the other things, hobbies, skills, volunteerism, maybe that all becomes an about category, and that all goes on one page. So you're going to be slicing and dicing up your content in different ways. You probably are more likely to have a three-way split, I would think, actually. Maybe you're going to have a resume type page which has education stuff on it, or you call it education page. And then you have an employment page or an experience page, and then an about kind of page. Or maybe this other split completely different. Maybe you'll have 4 pages, chunk your resume up into 4 different spots. Think about when you do this, that you've already started to accumulate some photographs you're going to use, and you can imagine there's others you can get to pretty easily. You want each of these pages to have at least 1 photograph, so you're keeping that in mind too. So the more pages and the more photographs is a more full-fledged resume site. So how is this going to work? What am I telling you to do? I'm telling you to make your own decisions. You have to split the resume up into at least 2 parts. Each one has to be a full-fledged HTML page. It has to have its open HTML, its own head, its own body. It's got to have its own title. It's got to have its own H1. It's got to be a completely self-sufficient page. All right. How physically are you going to do this? Well, you could make copies of your resume page and then remove the stuff that you don't want each of the copies. Like make a copy called experience.html, make a copy called education.html, make a copy called about.html, so on and so forth. Or you could make copies of pages, take a page and save off copies that have only certain things in them. You can take things and copy and paste between them, but you can see this is the potential to create some confusion and some problems and some lack of organization. So keep yourself organized. Don't lose any of your content as you go. You need all this content. One thing to keep in mind as you're doing this is the title and the H1. Each page is going to have its own title. Each page is going to have its own H1. Titles and H1s are not identical, but they serve similar purposes. Remember, the title, which is in the head, is like the name of the page. And the H1 sets the category of the page. Now, both your titles and your H1s will almost certainly have your name in them, because your name is your brand, and this is a resume, so it's about you, right? Now, your H1s have a limited amount of space. You don't want them to get too long, or else they'll start to break and look lousy. Be multiple lines. So you have to be really concise with the H1s. But the titles are not that way. Remember, the titles are only displayed on the tab of the browser, for instance, and in a search engine. So you have more room, and you should use that room. So the titles are usually more detailed. Here's an example. Imagine I can have an index page, which might be Jack Downs seeking journalism job, right? That could be my title for my index page, my welcome page. It could just be Jack Downs welcome, or it could be Jack Downs cover letter. All right, and then the H1 is probably just going to be my name. Let's imagine I have a resume page, and the title could say Jack Downs Resume College Experience. So maybe I'm putting those things together, those ideas together. And the H1 is probably just going to say Jack Downs Resume, or Jack Downs Education, for instance. I could have an employment page. The title might be Jack Downs Employment and Experience, maybe employment, experience, and internships, whatever's on that page. I can list a bunch of stuff if I want to in the title. But the H1 is just going to say Jack Downs Experience. You'll see in all these examples, I used a pipe symbol, which is a character, which is the shift key on the slash. You can try and find it and get it. You don't have to use a pipe character. You can use a slash, you could use a colon, you can use some other separator. The pipe character is commonly used in these situations. It feels like a web page, but it's not necessary. So you could look at that. So think about every page has its own H1, every page has its own title. These things are all related though, it's all one site. So make those things work together. Okay, now let's go look at some sites that you could find, of course, through our Moodle page, and you can look at them yourself later and look in more detail and look how some past students did divide these things up. And let's go to this one. And I'm going to go to, let's start with Rachel Burke's site, and I'm going to go to her home page. So you can get this, of course, remember, in Moodle in the area which says sample resumes, websites from past semesters. Rachel, of course, the home page is your cover letter. and will probably want some kind of photographs, and she has multiple photographs. But look what the division she has. She has an education page, an employment page, an achievements page, and then a skills page. Some of these pages don't have that much on them. That's okay. The page, you don't want a page that has just like one sentence. That's true. But your pages don't have to be completely balanced. Some pages are going to be longer than others. It's important that the content makes sense, but still feels like there is enough there. There was a reason to go there, and perhaps a reason to see a photograph there too. Her education page is a bit light. I could imagine many of you have much more of education. She should have here some courses that she took detailed in a DL. That's a disappointment that she doesn't have it. However, and of course another photograph would be nice too. However, her employment page has work that she's done, right, and other experience that she has, including some education-related experience, which is kind of work-like. And then her achievements page, it's a little different category. She put awards and publications here, right? And then her skills page she has multiple skills categories, and she put interests and hobbies there also. And look, at every page, and you will do this also, she has some contact information. And this would also be a good thing on every page to also have some social media link information too. More about that later. But this would not be too early to start to put that stuff on every page. Let's look at another category, another student. How about, go to our home page here. Okay. How about Jessica Blundell? This is her home page she calls About, which is a little different. She has an experience page, an education page, community service and awards page, and then a skills and hobbies page, which is kind of like an About Me page, I guess you could call that. So experience and employment, she put her college publications, like All Points North, and then her jobs, because they're kind of like jobs, even though one of them is college. Education is traditional education things. Wish those photos were bigger. And then community service. She has a lot of community service, so she made it's her own page. She stuck awards here. Perhaps those could have gone under education or something else. Skills and hobbies, she put those together. Interesting category to put those together. Again, I wish the photos were bigger because they were nice photos. And remember, samples, that's not what we're talking about yet. You'll be doing that soon, but samples isn't in these categories. Devin, she just did two categories. She did a resume page, and then she did an experience page. And by her resume page, she meant the traditional stuff in her resume, her education in particular, related coursework, college activities, and awards. And she put her objective here. And that's going to be one question for you is, where do you put your objective? And which page do you do it? Probably what you consider your first page after the cover letter. Some people meant instead to pull their objective over to the cover letter, which is an option too. And then her experience page, what does she got? Traditional job stuff, but she put her skills here, and then she interests and hobbies here too. So everybody's going to be different how you split this stuff up, and that's a decision for you to make. All right, we'll continue in just a moment as I talk about the other things besides the split you have to do, the other things you have to do with this next stage of the resume. Okay, now I'm on the second page of the assignment. And number 2 is add links to your page. Of course, you could do this before or after you split things up. It makes more sense to do it afterwards, though, because every page is going to have links. Your cover letter will have links. Each of your resume pages will have links. And there are so many things you could link to. It's important not to overlook them. So let's imagine the cover letter, okay? You probably mentioned SUNY Plattsburgh in the cover letter. It should be a link. You may mention a major or a department like public relations or something. You may mention something else that's linkable. So anything that's significant in your narrative to which there is a link that makes sense, you should link to it. We're talking about, these are traditional links to other websites, and you should know how to make those from many times before. So these absolute links will be all over the place. Now, if you link to SUNY Plattsburgh in your cover letter, what about on your education page? Would you mention SUNY Plattsburgh again? You'll link there again. Everywhere should be links. Almost every job, certainly, you can link to it. Most clubs have websites. You can link to them. Most fraternities, sororities, sports teams, there should be links to everything. And where should you be linking? Well, these will all be absolute external links, as it says. Should they have a target equal blank? Probably not. I don't think you want to force people to go to new pages. Links are best used in paragraphs or list item text, or DDs perhaps, but don't link from headings. Is this an absolute rule? No, it's true. Some people work out ways to link in headings, but you just make your life so much more difficult. This might require some rewriting to make this work, however. So let's use an example. Perhaps I should go to, just a second, let's go to a page here. Like for instance, in this Black Goose page, I have some links here, right? So if the White House cookbook was a heading, I would not want to link to it here. But of course, I link to it in the paragraph. Or I could have links that are in list items also. Here's another paragraph with a link in it. Okay? I would not want to link to it if it were a heading. This would make more sense if we look at it in one of the websites. Let's go back to Rachel Burke's, and let's go to her, maybe her employment page, right? So she has a SUNY Plattsburgh link. It's not that visible, but that is a link. And here's a restaurant that she was at. So she linked to SUNY Plattsburgh here. She won't link to it again on the same page. But every page where SUNY Plattsburgh is mentioned, there'll be one link to it, probably the first occurrence. She doesn't link in the heading. Why? Because it's bigger text, so you'd have to deal with that. It's probably got some color already. It's got some other presentation already, maybe a different font. You want your links to be reliable. So did she have the word SUNY Plattsburgh? That's, by the way, misspelled department, isn't it? Or the word at is missing space there. Did she have the word SUNY Plattsburgh in this paragraph earlier? Perhaps not. She may have done some rewriting to get that word there so she could link to it. The Crossroads is here, but we don't want to link to it there. We want to link to it in the paragraph, her restaurant that she worked at, right? So she had to do some rewriting to add the words, the Crossroad here, so she could get a link to it. You may have to do the same thing. So you can do lots of links. Don't skimp on the links. So what about after links? I would also like you to mention, to add contact information now at the bottom of every page. I think contact information makes sense to have at the bottom of every page because this is a resume and you want people to contact you. Some people instead do a contact page where they put contact information. Okay, I guess you could do that if you want, but I think it makes sense to have it at the bottom of every page. In addition to email and phone, okay, and if you don't want your real phone number there, just use a fake phone number, but still make the link and make a working link. In addition to those things and using them correctly, remember in the email address, you have the link and the email itself is visible too there. It actually is the email address, the same thing for the phone number. The visible link text is the phone number, and you have to make sure it's a real phone link. So go back to your links lesson and remember how to do those. Maybe there's some kind of divider before them too. There's probably going to be copyright on the bottom of every page too. So you have to work that out, how those are going to work together. Copyright should be the very bottom, I would think. Also, you should consider placement. This is likely where you're going to put some social media links too. Link to yourself on Facebook and on LinkedIn and wherever else you want to. For now, if you want to, you could just do text links to those things. But very soon, or you can go search yourself. There's so many places for free social media icons, and then they become little images that you place down there, and then they just get linked. So that's, if you can do that now on your own, or wait, and I can talk to you more about that later. But for now, anyway, get the links in there. Email, phone, and probably social media too. Add colors. This is a big category. Colors. You've been working on color schemes. You will get back from me soon my feedback on your color exercise 2 and 3, and then you'll use that information and what you've learned from coming up with the colors to solidify what colors you're going to use on your resume. And remember, all this stuff is going to be controlled from CSS. It will all come from the same place. So it'll be same pretty much throughout your resume. And remember, we mean foreground color, we mean color on headings, that would be color on headings. We mean background color, maybe secondary background colors possibly. And we need links. This is what link styling now too. Link styling, there's a lot to it. You've already gone through some of it. Let me remind you that link styling, back from a presentation we had, of course, we have to have always link state styled in this order. LVFHA. And here's the sample in the presentation. And these rules are ones I really want you to think about. Make the links stand out. Make sure that they're readable, though. Watch out for super bright colors that burn out your eyeballs, but I should know that that is a link and not regular text. I should know that that is a static link is different from a visited link, is different from the hover. But hover and focus and even active can be the same. Consider switching foreground background color on focus. Remember, it's not just color. It can be more than just color too, that you do with hover, for instance, or any of these states. Making visited stand out a bit less, but still has to be readable. Maybe it's a little grayer. Probably avoid forcing new pages to open. You could expand padding on links for a bigger mouse target. I'll show you that in a minute. And you may want to group active, hover, and focus, make them identical. Okay, a little bit about this stuff. I have a bunch. This page I've changed a little bit, but I showed it to you the other day. What does it look like? It's just a version of the color one. And here it is. And right now I have my switch between the background, foreground on my links. Okay, there's my links. I have background, foreground switch. That's fine. But remember, links can change color, as we've shown already, right? They can change font size. This is a pretty extreme change. It's not a bit extreme, but that definitely gives you a good hover. They can change background color. You've seen that. Any background color you wish. They can do a combination of color and background color shift, which is very common. They can change, this one changes font family, actually changes it to a whole different font. It's not just a font family change, really. It's a bolder font, too. It can change boldness. Anything can change. You can change to italics. But this one also is a change in padding. Remember, I don't have to get quite as close for the hover to happen. Just close, but not completely close. There. I've added padding to that link. Let me show you that. Here it is. On the hover state, I've changed the font family to a particular font. It'd be better if I had a full stack there. And I don't think you're going to change font family really for links, but it's possible. But I've added padding of 1 EM to make it a little bigger target to hit. You can even add more than that. You could try it and see what it's like. And what else do I have? I could change text decoration. I think this is something which using underline is something which people don't do enough of. Maybe you want to just leave it on the beginning and have it go away during the hover. Maybe not. I think also using bolding is something that we don't do enough of. Go ahead and look at these links. See how when you have a very fine type, it carries very little color with it. But imagine if the links were bold. It'd be much more identifiable that those are a real link, because the color would be more intense, because it'd be bigger type that the color would be hanging on to. Okay, so links throughout, style the links, color everywhere, make the colors work, legibility, readability, consider all those things as you go. And you're adding this throughout the document. Margins, many of you already added margins. If you didn't, consider adding a margin to the body now, so we get some space on the side, some white space during the built-in. Samples page, you don't have to do a samples page yet, but it's definitely time to start gathering this stuff for it. Can you showcase your writing, your photography, your audio, your video, your design, posters, classwork, anything. Some of you will have lots of stuff because you're seniors. You've been making stuff for a long time. Some of you are just getting started. You don't have that much stuff. Some majors lend themselves to more things to display than others too. But if you brainstorm and ask for help, I'm sure we can come up with a few things. And then if you don't, especially if you don't have too many, or even if you do have lots of them, you're going to think about how is the best visual way to display them. How can I show them? How can I make them into images, perhaps, and link the images, and then show the actual content too. And the photos, get your photos now. You could even put a photo in now instead of that silhouette. In any case, you don't actually have to put the photographs in yet, but you will very soon, so make sure to get them. And then, of course, what follows, Resume 5, will be Resume Final, your final project, where you'll be adding photos, navigation, and some layout too, perhaps. Too. That'll happen over the next few weeks as you learn more stuff. Okay, that's the video lesson. Get to work on your resume and look over the assignment. I'll be available via email if you have any questions or problems, and I hope to be back in class soon. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.